Good evening. I'm JTM. This is the Cold Front Report. The Bills start OTAs today, and there's no Star Lotulelei another year. Cause for concern?
Yeah, for me, Star Lotulelei is becoming the Tim Tebow of the Buffalo Bills. I'll explain exactly what that means coming up on the show tonight.
Right back. All right, so the Bills got going today. And if you guys not know, this is my co-host tonight, Thomas Frank Carr. Thomas, say hello.
How's everybody doing tonight? I'm so excited that there's marginal football to talk about. I mean, shorts and everything. I saw helmets. It's great.
Right. I mean, I'm still getting that bad taste of the AFC Championship out of my mouth, but today I felt a little bit better. And as Sean McDermott said last year, I got to sit down and drink a little Gatorade. So the boys are back. The boys are back in pass today, and it was a beautiful sight for most Bills fans as we continue, as I continue to state, we continue to get back to some type of normalcy with life. And this is always a great sight. Josh Allen slinging the rock at One Bills Drive.
This is something he's always going to do well, right? So he's always going to look good throwing the football. And Greg, the sports bully, he put something on Twitter earlier today of like how excited this makes him, and I'm like, you mean you're really into Jake Kumaro and Dawson Knox highlights? Because I'm surprised by that. But no, Josh Allen throwing a football, it's always going to look good. It's always going to feel good. And what you said is true. I'm not used to having such a short turnaround between the last Bills game and OTAs. So there is a certain amount of like, it's here sooner than I was expecting, but also I'm super glad that's the case.
Right. I mean, we're used to December normally? Normally December. That's what we've been used to.
Yeah, but when do you mentally check out? That's the question, is when are you actually looking at the draft? Because it had been in like late October, early November. I'm looking at like, all right, so who's the next quarterback we can look at? And then being disappointed in that too.
You know, and it's funny because when you used to get to that game 16 and 17, as a fan, your pride says, we want to win this game versus the Bengals. Because you remember, a lot of those Week 17 games, for some reason, used to be a lot of them used to be against the Bengals for whatever reason.
Yep.
And you said, we want to win this game, but then you say, if we lose, we do slide to number 5. And, of course, the Bills always won the game. We picked 9th.
Yep, 7-9, the Dick Duran method way of playing football. You're going to pick 9th, and you're going to get no good players. And you're going to pass on the good ones that are there.
We did get a water bug back, and CJ Spiller. But no.
Still so mad. I get triggered thinking about Travis Etienne. I'm still so mad about CJ Spiller.
All right. We got to get to this show, man. So the boys opened up today. Obviously, we saw Josh Allen. We had a list of players that were not OTAs. Although Sean McDermott, his presser today, did say I think they had 70-plus players when asked. And here's a list of the guys that were not there. We'll start with Stephon Diggs, if you know anything about Stephon Diggs, he works out like an animal. Devin Singletary, if you've seen his picture lately, we'll put it up later. Tywan Jones, he's a running back, as you'll get to later in the show, doesn't need to be there. Emmanuel Sanders, veteran. Mitch Morse, veteran. Darrell Williams, I don't know what Darrell's deal is, but he's an offensive lineman. He don't really need to be there right now. Jerry Hughes, Addison, and Butler. But then there's one name at the very top of this list. One Star Lotulelei.
Can we get to the audio, because it's so good I don't want to wait. Can we get to the audio, because it is so phenomenal to listen to.
Okay, so if you guys did not see Sean McDermott's presser today, this is probably the first time I've ever seen him just like disappointed, like a disappointed father. Okay, so before we play the clip, I'm going to show his face.
I'll say, for being disappointed, that's a wooden mask of disappointment. There's not a lot of furrowed brow. It's very even lines. I know it's because it's Zoom, but like some dark holes where his eyes should be. But yeah, you're right. That was the most I think he's ever really tipped his hand about an individual player, was his face and his reaction to the question about Star today.
Right, and the question was asked by NY Matt Perino, and he asked, how was his reaction to Star Lotulelei? And just listen to his reaction. I'm going to play the clip.
Good to see you. I'm curious, is Star Lotulelei there for OTAs? And what have those early interactions been like since phase 3 has started and you've gotten reacquainted with him, and what expectations are for him this year?
Yeah, unfortunately, Star is not here.
Okay.
He seems pissed.
Yeah, right? Because he didn't even address the second or third part of the question of what are you expecting from him? Any of those things are things that you could reasonably ask and say, yeah, he's not here. Give a personal reason, any of those things. But he just said, deadpan, don't ask me any follow-ups. Star's not here.
Right, and if you look at Perino's reaction, it's like, oh, okay, I think I hit a sore spot right there. I'm just going to move on quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, his face said it all.
Yeah. And it's the first time I felt good about the situation, truthfully, because they're a very loyal group of people in the Bills brass, which is why I think players like them, and I think that this team works, but that is a two-way street, right? Like, loyalty goes two ways, and I had assumed this offseason that they were hunky-dory and they're believing in Star and he's going to come back and all of those things. And this is the first time I've seen any evidence that Sean McDermott might feel how I do about the situation with his star defensive tackle. And it's a little bit refreshing to kind of see that frustration, because on this end, we've been doing this gnashing of teeth about Star Lotulelei and what is he, where is he, how is he, what's going on. And apparently Sean McDermott feels the same way. So that's a refreshing thing.
I guess one of the first shows that me and you did together when you joined Code for Report was Star Lotulelei and what his impact would be. Was there any day when you, obviously we know he was going to come back this year, was there any point in time in your mind that you thought we would get to the first day of voluntary workouts? And yes, it is voluntary. We understand that completely. And he would not be here.
No, I figured that he would be there. I figured that this would be a big moment for him being away for so long and needing to get reintegrated into the team. Because think about it, like, he probably hasn't been there since the end of the 2019 season. And I know that everyone's working remotely, and Jeremy, you and I have never met in person, but like, there's a certain amount of a certain point where you're a football player and it's like, does he work here anymore? We're paying him money. Does he work here anymore? And like, you know, I'm sure that there's 1,000 different things that you and I don't know. But when it comes down to it, as a football player and as a guy who plays the defensive tackle position, veteran or not, he needs to be back in there, and they need to have some assessment of what's going on in his life. Because, you know, whether or not he is going to be a big part of the offseason or whether he's going to be a big part of 2021, he's a big part of their picture financially, so he needs to be.
And you speak about those financials. Do you have the numbers for those financials, what he counts against the cap this year?
Yes, and I'll give you in several different ways, and none of it makes me feel good. So he is the 5th highest. So we'll get to that one in a minute. He is the 8th highest cap hit on the team, $7.6 million for 2021. If you go by percentage of cap, which I think is a more indicator of salary and all of those things, he's 4% of the Bills' total cap, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's one player that is 4%. He's also, again, the 8th highest on the team in terms of percentage of the cap. And then as a dead cap number, which I think we've all gone round and round and round about on this one, he has an $11 million dead cap hit. That's 5th highest on the team. Now, consider that the names in front of him are all superstars at their positions of Tre'Davious White, Stephon Diggs, let me get the right here, Matt Milano, who just signed a new deal, and Deion Dawkins, and then Star Lotulelei. He has the highest cap hit out of the core of their team, and then Star. And this is where I think this is bordering on a little ridiculous that we're talking this much about Star Lotulelei, which is why I compare him to Tim Tebow. His impact, even if he's on the team and he's there at OTAs, he's a run-stuffing one technique that isn't going to be in on passing downs. And we're spending all this time talking about him because of the $11 million. Because of the fact that they can't cut him, they can't move him, he has no trade value, and he's eating up so much of the cap. So he's got to be relied on, and he's not there.
I think we was talking about this in our CFR chat one day, and we were talking about it is the money. It's the money that has us so enamored and so focused and stuck on where Star is, what his production is. It's the money. And
Yep.
I think we said on our first show, if he did not have a 5-year, $50 million contract, we would not care. If he was on, like most DTs at his type of pay scale now, a 1-year, maybe $4.5 million deal, or 2-year, $8.5, $9 million deal, we would not care. We would be okay. But the truth is, he is on a 5-year, $50 million deal that we just restructured somewhat.
Yeah.
And he has not played football in a year. And I think the most concerning part is we don't know what type of condition or shape he's in. We have nothing.
Yeah. And apparently neither does Sean McDermott, or at least nothing that he was going to share with the media. And that's concerning because I'm fine not knowing as long as somebody knows. You know, I'm fine with not knowing everything. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of us tend to fall into this trap of, because I don't know it, I think that the answer is unknown. And then you don't trust that the people that need to know do know the information about Star Lotulelei or whatever it is. Sean McDermott's comments today makes it sound like it's truly an unknown, and that is a problem. I'll say this. It's a problem in the sense that you're not going to get anything out of him potentially. But again, going back to the Tim Tebow comparison, I'm not expecting to get anything out of Star Lotulelei in 2021 anyway. That's been my default setting. I've in our chats, in our private conversations, I've tried 2 or 3 times this year to do an article on Star Lotulelei, and I get to the point that I ask myself when I'm writing something or I'm talking, it's like, who really cares about this? Is this really important? And when I come to what his impact is as a football player, I get to meh. And that's where I'm like, Star Lotulelei, like the best you can hope for from this guy is that he's not bad at his job. I'm not expecting anything else than that.
I mean, I guess that's the expectation. I mean, I don't. Like I said, it's concerning. It's concerning because I would think that I was all for him opting out. When you hear the story about his wife and his family, and someone has an underlying conditions, I never want to bash a guy for opting out for his family in a situation like the middle of this pandemic was. And no, but we're back to workouts and voluntary workouts. You've taken the year off. No issue with that. But you need to be back. We don't know if you can pass a physical. We don't know if you're 40 pounds overweight. We don't know if you're 30 pounds under what you left. Because we've seen guys at his size shed weight just as fast as they can put it on at times. So how do we know that Star Lotulelei's not sitting at home, and I highly doubt it, at 292 pounds? And we're relying on this guy to come back and be a one-tack.
Yeah. And I don't know that physicality was his strong suit. Like, he's not a dominant guy at that position. Why he was drafted originally is that he was a one technique with quickness that could be a pass rushing threat. That is what you draft a guy in the first round for that. He can do it all from that position, and he can play with strength and length and quickness. And again, I've gone back this season. I wanted to even give him context of any injuries in preseason, all of these things that I tried to figure out what Star Lotulelei is and why they like him so much. And I just came back with he's okay, and he's not a dominant anything. So if he's not in top shape, that further detracts from what I don't have a glowing review of to begin with. So again, we're coming back to this thing of Star Lotulelei is the unsolvable problem for the Buffalo Bills in 2021. He is I think if he is anything, he is emblematic. He is the symbol of the cap situation because of the pandemic. He is a giant stone around their neck that they can't do anything with. And I don't know what the answer is.
And I guess we're going to find out soon. And this is something that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are really going to answer for if this does not work out, because him in particular, this is their guy.
Yes.
This is the guy that Brandon Beane probably advocated to draft. This is the guy that you brought into your new team. This is the guy that at his introductory news press conference said he would make a difference here. Talked about how he liked following Kyle Williams and how it was an honor to take that position and play next to Kyle. Or I don't know if he played next. Did he actually play against Kyle? I don't remember if he did.
I think maybe for 1 year.
Okay. So it comes down to a situation where you're going to have to answer for if this doesn't work out. Because as we've stated before, the market when Star Lotulelei was out there, and I don't want to be negative against the signing. I was never negative against the Star Lotulelei signing, because at his size and what he does, there was a definite need. What was not needed was the market value that we gave him. We went over in years and we went over in money. So you have to answer for this.
Yeah. This is the payment. Again, this is the payment for comfort and for familiarity, which has been, I read a study that there are more people from the Northeast and Buffalo moving to North Carolina in the last census than in any other state. Brandon Beane is having a active detriment to that statistic, bringing as many Carolina Panthers north as possible. And Star is he figuratively, no pun intended, is the biggest one of that group. I was not a huge fan of the signing. You know, I look at the PFF stats and the metrics, and I watch the film, and I know they believe in the guy, and he brings everything from culture and all those things. But now he's not even bringing that because he's not a camp. And again, it's voluntary, but he hasn't been there in over a year. And also, I do want to point out the other defensive tackle that they brought in from Carolina, Vernon Butler, who also is a fringe player on this team, is also not at mandatory OTAs. And also, as Sean McDermott said, I want to bring up the exact quote because I think it's important. It's good to have guys here to work on their craft and develop as players. There's nowhere else they can develop the way they can here. You got a first-class staff and state-of-the-art facility, and then obviously went on to extol the virtues of Buffalo in the spring. And as I roast here in my apartment, I agree with him. Vernon Butler needs progression. He needs to get better, and he's also not there. So what is up with these North Carolina guys not showing up at defensive tackle in the OTAs? I think it's a trend.
As my man Mookie Hawkins always says, they're stealing money. You know, it's almost, and I'm sorry to say this, I know the kids aren't watching, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's almost like these Carolina Panthers, the Bills are a Panthers only fans. We're just shelling out. We're just shelling out money, man. Right?
We'll call it for everybody to be involved. It's a cameo, right? They're paying for the cameo.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I think that they've done a lot of good things with the roster. My one complaint is I do think they lean on a couple of key tenants. And in the pandemic, I do understand where you can't work guys out. You can't go to, you couldn't even get physicals and stuff like that. So you're going to lean on guys you already know and relationships you already have,
Mhm.
because it was a very important year for the team and they're taking that next step. I think they rely on that a lot. And it is, again, the symbol of that is Star Lotulelei, where they bet a lot on this guy, and he has not delivered on that. I don't think any of the Carolina Panthers, off the top of my head, other than Darrell Williams, that have really delivered on that. Because if you look at Vernon Butler, Mario Addison, a lot of these defensive line guys, I think that they're just okay football players that they paid a lot of money to come here and be starters, and that what they offered at Carolina was that they were above average for a cheap price. Now they're here and average for an above average price, and the math just doesn't work for me.
We saw Bill Parcells do a similar thing in the 90s, early 2000s. After he left the Giants, he took a lot of those players, people like Dave Meggett and Pepper Johnson, to New England and stuff with him. After he left for New England, he went to the Jets. You saw it again, taking people like Leon Johnson, Dave Meggett once again with him. And I mean, Curtis Martin was his big fish, but that worked out just fine. Okay, it's all the fame running.
Yeah.
But he never got back to the Super Bowl doing so. Well, I'm sorry, he did get with New England. He got through it one time with New England, but it wasn't very efficient. It wasn't an efficient thing to do.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of the bring in Mike Tolbert and establish the culture and all that stuff. And I do think that there are key positions you can do that, and I do think there are key positions that or just roles for that. You know how at a certain point Fred Jackson was much more of a player on the team that led the team than he was the best running back on the team. I think those players, you can't underrate that, but you do have to produce at some level. And once you've progressed beyond this, my hope would be in the future that we progress beyond bringing in guys to establish the culture, and the really good football players like Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, and Tre'Davious White are the ones that are establishing the culture, and we're not paying for that particular skill in the future.
And speaking of Stephon, it was very interesting in his comments on Stephon's absence. And I knew you were talking about that pre-show. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And I think we'll get into Stephon and Devin Singletary both not being here today as well.
So with Diggs, you've talked about it too. You see the tangible results of him working out like a psychopath in the offseason. So you're never really going to say like he needs to be here, because again, the production on the field is evident. And as a veteran and a guy who has been in the offense for a year at the OTAs, you're not going to come out and say you want him here and that he should be here. But what he said about Cole Beasley, I think, is kind of the other side of the coin of what he didn't say about Stephon, which is he's from what we know, he's fine. And from what we know, he's a tough guy. But again, here's the quote that he says about Cole Beasley, because he was asked about the injuries to both of them in the postseason. And he says the good thing about being here for Cole is that he gets treatment and working on getting himself right where he can perform for us. So like Diggs, we think he's fine. He's a football player. You're never going to call out your star receiver, right? But you're definitely going to talk about your all-pro slot receiver and how he's here working with the team, being in our state-of-the-art facility. So it's more of the contrast there and kind of trying to read between the lines, I think, that is the subtle thing about what he said about not being at OTAs for Diggs.
Yeah, you're not going to say too much about Stephon. I mean,
right.
Stephon is, a fifth-round draft pick? He's turned into a perennial all-pro.
Yep.
Gets traded, and he leads the league in receptions and yards. Whatever he's doing, and I don't know if you guys have ever watched a Stephon Diggs training tape. It's something that I get tired just watching. And I definitely wouldn't even try to work it. It seems like it's his workout is harder than an Insanity DVD. And no, I mean, if you ever watch this guy train, he trains like a freaking maniac. So whatever he's doing, he needs to just continue to do that.
Yeah.
And as far as Devin Singletary goes, I don't know if anybody has seen what Devin Singletary looks like this year, but I can almost imagine that he's going to be getting drug tested every single week as I put this picture up. I mean, this man is now sculpted. Like,
Did he just get out of a pool? Why is he so wet?
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, he did not come to the Bills looking this way.
No.
He did not leave last season looking this way. This is a dude who said, hey, I'm sick of the critics. I'm sick of hearing everything I got to hear. I will never drop another ball ever again.
Yeah, because he inserted them right into his bicep. So he's not going to be able to drop them anymore. Yeah, that's another one of those guys that he's a running back, and he's been in the system for 3 years now. So it is OTAs. This is much more important for guys like AJ Epinesa and rookies and guys like that. So the guys that are there that absolutely need to be there are there. And again, you go down the list of guys that aren't. Even Star Lotulelei is a veteran. Now, it's just the wild west of unknowns with him that is the problem. And to make us all feel better about Star, are you going to give us something? But like Taiwan Jones also is a special teams player. They're not going to be going over anything in depth, I don't think, in OTAs. Emmanuel Sanders, he is new, but a veteran. Mitch Morse is the one that I would like there of the offensive lineman because he is the center. He's making the calls. I think he'd be good for him to work with the other guards around him to help Cody Ford, Forrest Lamp, and some of the other guys they brought in this offseason. But Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, I'd rather have the young guys getting all of the reps than having those veterans there. And then again, Vernon Butler is kind of in the Star Lotulelei category of me of like, I don't really put a lot of stock in what he's going to give to the team. So if he's not at OTAs, I'm not losing sleep over that one.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I know a lot of people are saying like, hey, it's OTAs, doesn't matter. It's voluntary. But there's a lot of things in life that are voluntary. Like when the cops ask you for your ID, that's voluntary. You probably should do it, but if you don't, it's voluntary. It may cause a problem.
Yeah. I didn't know that was voluntary. I just assumed that was mandatory.
Well, it's technically voluntary. It's just like, okay, getting your vaccination. That is also voluntary right now. But I guarantee when the season starts, every Buffalo Bill, including Josh Allen, will be vaccinated. We're just they're going to suggest that you get it. And you probably will get it because they're probably in your best interest. There's a lot of things in life that are voluntary. I don't think it was voluntary for Star Lotulelei not to be here.
Yeah.
He needs to show his face. And as you say, he's a veteran. He opted out last season. He wasn't there. I think it would have showed some leadership too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's this is the other part that was brought up today is you didn't have this last year. So everything means a little more. Everything about getting back into the rhythm means a little more. And having key guys there that need to be there and having key things happen for the Bills in 2021 starts in OTAs right now. And that's the part where it's not off to a great start in this aspect with Star Lotulelei because we're not answering that question. We're not working towards knowing what we need to work to for making him a viable part of the defense and leaving it up solely to him to be ready whenever he's, mandatory training camp comes around and he's there.
I get it. I know our man Giants by like in the comments saying he isn't a leader though. But I disagree with that. I believe his age and his contract is going to deem him a leader to younger players like Gregory Rousseau, like Carlos Basham, Justin Zimmer. They're going to look at this guy as a leader, and I think it's a monkey see, monkey do type of league.
Mm-hmm.
They see the veteran do it. They're going to probably copy that. You got to remember, there's no other veterans there right now, really. Addison, Hughes, and Butler are not there.
Yeah, the veteran is Harrison Phillips, who I'm much higher on Harrison Phillips and his ability to bounce back from the ACL, which again was discussed today. I'm much more. I was encouraged by what he was before the injury and where he was headed. I think he can be what they want Star to be, and that'll be so much more critical to what the Bills are in 2021 because all that dead cap money, if Harrison Phillips can make up for that in play for what he's being paid, and that balances the spreadsheet. But now we're down to musts in that situation. And if you don't have Star there and you're solely breaking on Harrison Phillips being the guy to come back and not only take a step forward physically from the injury, but also actually deliver on that play that we saw before his injury, that's just like 2 or 3 steps down the road, expectation-wise. And again, your veteran that you paid all this money to be the leader at that position hasn't shown up.
I'm going to show this look on McDermott's face one more time before I make this next comment, because it's honestly, it's just hilarious, and it says a lot to me.
I want to give it its proper silence. I want to like control myself for a moment, stop giggling. So put it up one more time so we can give the somberness it needs.
Right. It's just it's just the point where he needs to be there.
Yeah.
And that's just the bottom line. I just feel that after having a year off, it just shows a sense of urgency. Like, hey, even if you don't want to get back, even if you want to keep vacationing, it shows urgency to say, hey, I want to get back to work. I want to be here with my guys. And I think Sean McDermott, I think that's why he seemed pissed about it, because I think he expected him to be here, and he may come back in phenomenal shape.
Yeah. So I know we just spent the whole show talking about this. I do wonder if the family situation still concern him, but at that point, I think we've proven as a society, if you do have a higher risk of infection and you are an at-risk person, first off, there are vaccines that are available, and you can put plans in place. Like, I live here in State College, and I cover Penn State football. James Franklin hasn't seen his daughters since the pandemic started because one of them has sickle cell anemia, so he doesn't want to risk being around the team and then bringing something home that could potentially be fatal to his daughter. So he lives in his garage. He found a way around it so that he could still be a part of the team and he could still have some sort of functional life. If Star Lotulelei isn't trying to find ways to get back to the field, that might be what Sean McDermott's face is about. That's the concern, is that there's still, like, there are workarounds, there are vaccines, there are things you can quarantine for 2 weeks after OTAs, but you need to be making that concerted effort to be here. And if you're not, there has to be a legitimate reason why you aren't, especially if you opted out in 2020 and you are who you are on the roster and all the things we already talked about.
And before we get too far in the show, I had Stevie Johnson on here the other night, and he was promoting a camp that he's doing in Buffalo, and I think this is a great opportunity if you guys have kids. He's gonna be doing a session at Amherst Central High School. His first session is gonna be 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and the second session is gonna be 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. I believe on the 29th here on Saturday. It's gonna be ages 7 to 13 and ages 14 plus. You're gonna have to email clubhbhf@yahoo.com for the info, because he also will be doing exclusive camp for wide receivers and DB. So it's something you don't want to miss out. If you guys never been around Stevie or work with Stevie, he'll put you to work. He will put you to work, and he'll teach you a lot of small nuances. So please go see our guy as he ventures back to Buffalo from California to just get back to the community.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I Stevie's a really good guy. I don't know if you, like I said, I've got to spend a lot of time with him over the last 2 years. Just hanging out, talking football, and the guy you think he will be off the field is exactly who he is. He's a great individual. Yeah, just great guy.
One of like 3 receivers. So I always wanted to be a receiver growing up. So I always bought the wide receiver 1 jersey growing up, and he was the last jersey I bought. So Stevie Johnson is pretty high up there for me in Bill's lore when it comes to awesome receivers. So that's pretty cool. That's cool to hear.
We gotta get that signed for you.
I gotta get it out. I put it away so that it wouldn't get all moth eaten and stuff.
Well, we'll get it out. We'll get it signed. We have to frame that. We'll put that behind you.
Yeah, I can put it over here.
That's it, right to the left. Well, actually, you're right over here. That's right. I'm looking the other way. But no, I thought that it was nice to see the Bills get back out there. It was nice to see about 70 guys get out there. It was nice to see. He did mention AJ Epinesa today and how he looks. And I remember you were breaking it down of AJ Epinesa's situation with going to Iowa to me before, with his weight and what the Bills were doing will make him cut weight, and probably why we didn't see much of him last year. Do you want to just briefly touch on that? Because he did say he looked in great shape and that he'll be ready to go for training camp.
Yeah, so Iowa always makes guys play big. They want you to be run defenders first. They want you to be big, physical throwback linemen. AJ Epinesa, when he became the starter his junior year, was playing about 280 and looked thick. He had all of that like D-line sort of Cam Hayward muscle on him, is what he reminded me of. And then when they drafted him after he had a bit of a down season because he couldn't really play at that weight as efficiently as a pass rusher, and they get him as a value in the second round, the Bills said, hey, we want you to cut weight, play like you were when you were a sophomore and you were the situational pass rusher. So in the offseason, last year in 2020, when he wasn't in the facility training and getting the diet, nutrition information from the Bills that they wanted specifically, he worked out so hard he was underweight when he came into camp. And then he had to adjust back and kind of calibrate where he wanted his body. He didn't have the entire offseason. That was another conversation brought up today of none of these rookies from last year really had an offseason where they could work and get better at their craft. So he comes into this OTA having the chance to work out at the facility, be with the team for a year. And they said, like, you know, you always hear he's in the best shape of his life and all that stuff in training camp. This one actually means something because it's been something that's been a story and a journey for AJ Epinesa. And if there's a guy that I'm looking for a year two breakout, to me, it is Epinesa, because we saw tangible evidence of him being a very good pass rusher at that weight. He just has to get that in, get that coaching, and really get some consistency in his game. And if he does that, and you know, they've got this young nucleus of defensive ends, I'm very bullish on what they can do at that position as long as, you know, he continues to stay healthy and on that trajectory.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I believe the question was asked by Mookie Hawks, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it was a good question. And I was wondering because half the questions we were getting, they were all vaccination questions. I'm like, geez, can we just get something football? I want to just talk something football, please.
Yeah. Yeah, especially so with McDermott, I thought he at least address the conversation. Like, there was a conversation. You did learn some stuff about Sean McDermott and what he thinks about and how he thinks about the process. But when Josh Allen came on and he's like, I don't want to talk about it, and that's his first comments, and then there's 9 other questions, it's like, then at a certain point, like, it is the story of our generation. It is the thing that is going to have a tactical, personal, world influence on what's going on. But if the dude doesn't want to talk about it, he's not going to talk about it. So, like, let's at least hear what he's been working on this offseason, which they did get to at the end.
And finally, I mean, they only wasted all interviews today about the vaccinations. Yeah. But thank God we'll get rid of this this situation hopefully, and we can just talk football all the time. You know, maybe talk about some off the field problems, something, because obviously you do realize once everything opened back up, there was very limited off the field problems.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have some things happen here. Hopefully not our team, but yeah, there's gonna be some issues.
Breaking news: half of the Minnesota Vikings are on a boat in one of the Great Lakes on a pleasure boat. We'll get more of those stories.
Right, and it's definitely coming. So everybody, get ready for the onslaught. I think the Bills are in good shape. I think we'll be fine. We don't usually have too many problems. We only had Ed Oliver's situation, which he was falsely accused.
Mm-hmm.
So that we'll be good. But it was just nice to see the guys get back on the field today. You know, I just recapping our show tonight. We talked about Stephon Diggs not being there with Sean McDermott talking, but let Steph do Steph, man. You stay out of Steph's business, Sean. All right. Devin Singletary's not there, but he's looking like RoboCop at this point. So I think he's fine to go. But the biggest thing was to have to Star Lotulelei, which I think we both agree on. It was just more of a imagery thing.
Yes.
For him to be there. Not much of a, workout deal or are you in shape type of deal, but just the imagery.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to monitor going forward if there's any follow-up to that, because I don't think we're the only ones that caught on to how Sean McDermott seemed less than pleased about that. I'm interested to see if there's a follow-up of any kind and if we get any more insight on that from McDermott going forward during OTAs.
Well, if they sign K'Wan Short in the next few days, then we'll you want K'Wan Short? I see you do your hands.
They need to solve the position. They need to have something that is a tangible, reliable player at that position. And right now, I see Harrison Phillips and Justin Zimmer, who is an undersized. He's a 3 technique playing at 1. So yeah, you need to solve that position. It's the unsolvable problem. If you got a guy in here and made the whole thing an expensive irrelevance, then yeah, I'd be for that.
I'm not against it. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to say it's another Carolina player, but I think this one could actually make a difference.
Yeah, it only matters if they're good. That's the problem, is the getting the good ones to play for Buffalo.
Yeah, how many times can we miss? I mean, is it even mathematically possible to miss on this many players from one team?
I don't know. I like analytics, but I don't know the math part.
I mean, I don't
I'm
know.
a broadcast major. I didn't do anything in math in college.
I mean, I think we're like maybe 1.5 of like 10 players.
I give Josh Norman a half. I think that he was reasonably good.
That's my half.
Yeah, I like that.
That was my half. You hit around the butt. See, we're on the same page. And the one is who's the one?
Darrell Williams, I'd say.
Yeah, Darrell Williams. Yes, so 1.5.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give him 2 because AJ Klein's the other half. Come on, he was Thor for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, and then teams realized he's bad at football, and they made him run.
You know, I'm gonna put a video, a pan of AJ Klein just on the screen, just to show you, man. I mean, come on, dude. Like, look at this guy.
I was not a fan of the signing. I was not a fan of his play.
Right.
I think if there was one position I wanted to eliminate, it was having 3 linebackers on the field, because I'm not a fan of what he does. So, but that's just me. I'm always allowed to be wrong.
You don't have to worry about it this year, because I'm pretty sure we'll run 70% nickel, which is the highest percentage in the league again this season. And if not, you have Tyrell Adams out there a lot more. So don't think you have to worry about it. But I will say, mark this on your calendars. I think it's July 2nd, 2022 will be Star Lotulelei Day. And if you guys are wondering why that will be Star Lotulelei Day, on July 2nd, 2022, Star Lotulelei's contract drops to $2 million dead cap. At that point, he will be cut.
It's a post June cut too next year, which makes it worse.
Yeah.
You can't even solve this. You have to wait till post June. Oh, that's rough.
Maybe they can give us an one amnesty contract.
A mulligan, like when you're bad at golf, just get a mulligan.
Remember in the NBA years ago, the new CBA, they gave every team one amnesty contract. Maybe they can give us just one amnesty. You know?
I would like that.
But no, hopefully we get the big fella back. Hopefully he's in shape. Hopefully he's ready to play his 22% of snaps and hold 2 linemen up so that Tremaine Edmonds can make some tackles and pick the right gap. So we'll see. But hey, great show, Thomas. Any closing words? Yeah,
Tim Tebow. I hope that we talk less and less about Star Lotulelei, because it means that things are going in the right direction and we don't have a sideshow, which is just the. I was thinking about that today and I couldn't shake it, so I had to say it out loud.
Yeah, guys, before we get off tonight, though, make sure you guys do not forget to go visit our friends over at Discover 716 as they continue to grab kids for intern programs and get them in the media business before they can actually even drink. So make sure you guys go to Discover 716 and help out and donate, please. And stay tuned for the details of the Mafia Homecoming Party, the 2nd annual. It should be the 3rd, but the pandemic messed up the 2nd one. So it is the 2nd one. We're working on special guests. If you were at the 1st one, you know how great of a time it was. It's going to be same place. It's going to be on a Friday night. And we'll get all the details to you coming soon, because we want everybody there. And, get vaccinated if you want. Don't if you don't like to. Whatever you choose to do, it's on you. Just please don't ask all the vaccination questions during the OTAs again. But other than that, I'm JTM, my co-host Thomas Frank Carr. We are out of here. Hopefully to see you soon. And you too, Star. Good night.